Welcome to the Gateless podcast. This is a solo episode today. And since I'm solo, I will reintroduce myself. I'm Kara. I am a co host of the Gateless podcast. And I have built my career the last decade in tech sales, in hyper growth startups. And I've done everything from being the first sales rep at a small startup to scaling in sales leadership past 200, 300 million companies that are growing rapidly. So I've been in corporate my whole career. I started at a job that sucked my soul out and left very quickly, and then pivoted to the startup world. That has been a lot more fulfilling to me. Through this journey, I learned a lot about myself. And the biggest thing is that I really have gotten where I am today by way of other women helping me and on opening doors for me and unlocking secrets and hacks that you just aren't going to be told typically. And so the purpose of the Gateless podcast is to open the gates and open the doors to conversations and topics that really move the needle for people in professional growth, personal growth, entrepreneurial growth. And so today's episode is a solo, and I've been reflecting a lot at the end of the year and starting to set my intentions for next year. For anybody that's also reflecting on 2023, and if you're interested in setting intentions for the new year, this episode is for you. I'm going to share my 10 intentions and the tips that I took myself to start setting my own intentions for 2024. I actually created a workbook too, so that you can steal my process, steal my intentions if you want. And this workbook will really help you get clear on how to do a structured reflection process, and then also take that reflection and turn it into intentions and goals for 2024. So to get the workbook, go to the Instagram page, Gateless Pod. In the story highlights, you'll see a place to request access to the workbook. Okay, so before we get into me telling you about my intentions, let's talk about the importance of intention setting and reflecting. So, the importance of reflecting is really acknowledging and appreciating self growth and achievements across the year, learning from your challenges, and enhancing your self awareness, like identifying the limiting beliefs that you had last year that held you back. So, I think it's a fundamental process to go through first in doing your reflections before you start intention setting. So, you can take what you learned, the experiences that you went through, what went well, what did not go well, where you felt most authentically yourself, where you didn't feel like yourself, and then take that as the foundation to setting your intentions. The importance of intention setting, I mean, there's so many, but it creates focus and direction for your year, which you can break down into daily practice. It's like your North Star and your guiding light for the year that you can break down into tiny, digestible actions that you can do and form habits around every single day. Creating intentions with a purpose is so important. So when you reflect first, your intentions become anchored and oriented around the goals that you have for yourself based on what you noticed in your previous year. And then the final thing in the importance of intention setting is around personal growth. It is so attractive when somebody is focused on personal growth. You attract like-minded people, and it's inspiring, engaging, and attractive to be around people that are also focused on bettering themselves and personal growth. And setting intentions is a great place to start putting that energy out into the world. I'll share a bit about my reflection process from last year. This past year brought a lot of successes, brought a lot of happy moments, a lot of first. It also brought some tough experiences for me, a lot of which I didn't really realize were so tough as I was going through them. But in my reflection, I realized that they were pretty tough moments. It was my first full year of motherhood, and that presented some challenges even in my marriage and navigating our partnership and how to balance the obligations we have to our son and our family, and also the obligations we have to our big jobs, and figuring out how to operate from the same value system on how to use our time was frictionful, and it was tough. And I didn't realize how tough and painful, or why it was tough and painful at the time. But that was a big one for me. There was some interesting evolutions in friendships that I have. And I reached a point of burnout that I never thought that I would reach. I left a job. I started a new job. I started a podcast. And really, and most importantly, I felt like towards the end of this year, I started to feel and act like the most authentic version of myself that I probably ever have before. And reflecting back, part of the year felt like it was just happening to me. I was just reacting. I didn't have a lot of control and intentionality in what I was doing. I was just reacting and trying to keep up with everything, all of the things. And I hate that feeling. And so that is why intention setting for me into 2024 is so, so important, so that I can not take control, because that's a fallacy. I could never take control, but I can at least have purpose and intentionality in the way that I'm living my life. And that's the reason that setting intentions are so important at this time of the year, to kick off your new year in a clear and focused way. So this is the era of being me, letting myself really shine and become everything that I'm supposed to be. And I'm going to clearly define all of those things in the intentions. So, again, I created a workbook to help you reflect and set your own intentions. To get it, go to Gateless Pod on Instagram and find in the story highlight the place to request access to it, and we'll send it to you. Number one intention for 2024: shedding the outdated personality traits. This is about recognizing and letting go of those traits that no longer represent who you are today. This type of growth means evolving past our former selves, or personal evolution in general, when how you portray yourself to others is actually how you feel inside. You'll have improved relationships, improved self-confidence, improved mental and emotional health. Overall, the goal is alignment and harmony between your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions. And those things are not static. So your personality and who you are shouldn't be static either. They change and evolve, as should you. For me, I'm moving past and shedding the trait of being a people pleaser. I don't want to be a people pleaser anymore. I've outgrown that, and it no longer fits who I am. I don't want to be somebody with walls up out of protection that is hard to get to know, hard to get close to, hard to give and receive love. And it doesn't feel like me anymore. It's not me anymore. I don't want to be self-sufficient at all costs anymore. I'm okay with needing help and needing support. And there's no badge of honor for doing everything myself. And so I'm shedding that. That's not me. And it doesn't feel like me. It hasn't for a while. Number 2 is use my voice. We've been taught, especially as women, to be easy, be nice, be the nice girl. And in a lot of cases, that really has a negative impact on how we use our voices. And using your voice is a form of showing self-respect and authenticity to yourself. It's a form of boundary setting and helps build your self-confidence too. I don't mean using your voice in a hurtful or malicious way. I mean using your voice in a real, kind way to make your points known. And be okay with people hearing what you think and knowing what you stand for. It's an amazing thing to get comfortable doing, and it's a beautiful form of self-love and self-respect to use your voice. I realized that I wasn't speaking up in certain situations, and it was leaving me feeling resentful of myself and not proud of myself. And the thought of, like, how soul sucking is it when you are thinking something and you don't say it out loud, and you find out after the fact that you were right and you could have made a difference. And if you had spoken up, you could have changed the outcome or the trajectory or the impact that it had on somebody else. And using your voice, other people do. Plenty of other people use their voice, and I deserve to use my voice too. So I'm bringing that into 2024. Number 3, trust myself. Trusting yourself is really about relying and believing in your own judgment, your own critical thinking, your own instincts, even when they go against the grain. I've talked a few times about gut feelings versus critical thinking, and it's really both at play. Trusting yourself is trusting both of those things. Someone who knows themselves and trusts themselves is a decisive person. That is very attractive energy to be around. Learning to trust yourself and your instincts is so critical. And it's something that I'm bringing into the new year because I haven't shown myself that in a consistent way in the past. So in 2024, I'm going to trust myself more than I trust anyone else. Trusting my gut, trusting my critical thinking, trusting my intelligence, not letting other people's opinions cloud how I feel because I'm the only one that knows what's best for me and what's right for me. And I'm going to give myself that grace and appreciation that, I know myself, I trust myself, and I'm going to be decisive in knowing what is right for me. And I'm not going to question it. And I'm not going to let other people's opinions and words cloud that for myself. Number 4 is be limitless. This is about not being confined to a single identity or being put in a box. Breaking free from limitations is about not allowing yourself to be confined to a single identity or role imposed by others, somebody else. Typically, when you feel like you're being put in a box, it's because others want to know what to expect from you. And that's out of their own comfort. If you're being made to feel like you can't be this because you're this, that's not because of you. That's because of somebody else. You can't be a thriving corporate girl and also be an entrepreneur and a mom. That's an example. It's probably because somebody else has limiting beliefs or has fear of the unknown, or they're seeking control and you're throwing them off. In my opinion, being multifaceted is amazing and intriguing. I am so attracted to people who have a multidimensional personality. They've got a lot going on. They're not so easy to figure out. Somebody that is amazing at public speaking but is so introverted and whatever it is, like just multifaceted is an amazing thing. And believing that you can live a life limitlessly and not be confined to one single identity is an amazing unlock for allowing yourself to be everything that you should become. An example for me is I'm not just a successful sales leader. I am a mom. I am a wife. I am a friend. I am a daughter. I am a sibling. I'm an athlete. I'm a deep thinker. And now I'm a podcaster. I'm really into cosmic energy and astrology. I am so interested in health and wellness and longevity and biohacking. I love doing deep research on things and reading a ton and educating myself. I'm so deeply committed to self-growth and self-discovery. I have a huge passion for elevating women. I can be all of those things. I don't have to be any single one or two of them. And I'm a lot more introverted than a lot of people realize. I need a ton of alone time to recharge, and embracing that, as well as the fact that I have this career in sales where I have to talk to people all day, is okay. I'm bringing that energy into 2024. I'm living limitlessly and I'm not going to be confined to a single identity. I'm nurturing all of those aspects of me this year. Number 5, prioritize my comfort. What I mean by this is making sure your own comfort in a situation is valued just as much as the next person. For example, if you don't agree with something that was said or it was inappropriate or sketchy and you brush it off and laugh, or you just stay silent as to not make that other person uncomfortable, instead of saying what you really want to say, which is, oh, wow, I actually don't agree with that. Help me understand your perspective. I think we're really far apart in how we think about this. Or, oh, wow, that's probably pretty hurtful to some people. Have you thought about how that makes them feel? By holding silence, really what you're doing is reinforcing negative behavior, which is a missed opportunity for the other person to grow. And it's really continuing to make yourself uncomfortable. Not to mention, those are probably pretty unfulfilling relationships you have with people where you feel like you're constantly doing this. You're making yourself feel uncomfortable as to not make them feel uncomfortable. So this is not the vibe for 2024. This really actually happened to me a lot when I became a mom. People were very quick to tell me what was going to happen, how I was going to feel, what my child was going to do, what my relationship with my husband was going to look like, how it was going to evolve. And a lot of those things didn't actually pan out that way. They didn't feel authentic to me. And instead of saying, hey, I appreciate the advice or I appreciate that, but that's not the experience that I'm having right now. I really want to hold space for myself to have my own experience. And I want this to evolve and unfold for myself, without like having some expectation of how it's going to become. Thank you though. I didn't say it because I didn't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. These are all well-intended people in my life, but I didn't say it because I didn't want to make them uncomfortable. And it didn't feel good after the fact. And I just felt like I had to be silent. I'm not doing that anymore. Number 6, manifesting my desires and my reality. So manifestation is about attracting what you focus on, what you think about, what you say, all of it. Manifesting is the practice of focusing on what you want to bring into your life, whether it's specific goals, desires, intentions. The law of attraction is real and it works. And what you put out into the universe is what you attract, and it's what becomes your reality. And whether you believe you will succeed or you believe you will fail, you're right. Either one you believe, you're right. And that's why it is so important to stay focused on the energy, intention, words that you speak, that you write, and make sure that they are aligned with the reality that you desire. Manifesting and the law of attraction is real. It's important. And I think everybody should think like this and start incorporating it into their intentions. I use a mantra whenever I have to go somewhere to park. I say parking spots are in abundance, parking spots are in abundance, parking spots are in abundance. And it works. I am never the person that can't find parking. And I give my husband a bunch of grief about this because he's the person that before we even leave the house, if we're going somewhere crowded, he's like, oh my gosh, we're never going to find parking. Why are we even going? And I'm like, you know what? You are right. If you talk like that, you are absolutely right. We're not going to find parking. So either start saying the mantra of parking spots are in abundance or stay home, because I believe that we're going to manifest those parking spots. And that's a silly example, but it is a real example. And it's about the energy that you put into the universe is the energy that you're going to get back. Number 7, say no a lot more than I say yes. When I think about the amount of time I have and the way I value my time, this becomes very important. So back to the thought of living life intentionally and not just letting it happen to you, being able to make space for the things you actually want to do is a critical first step in that. And to do so, you have to say no. And you got to start there. You got to start saying no more. You can only be present and engaged in the things that matter most if you make room for those yeses. And there's not a lot of room for yeses for the things that you want to do if you're saying yes to everything. If everything is important, then nothing is important. So saying yes should be reserved for the opportunities and commitments that align with your goals. If it isn't a true obligation, I don't really want to do it for me and my happiness, and it isn't helping me achieve my goals, it's going to be a no for me, dog. I want to draw harder lines and save space for the things I actually want to do. Truly saying no in 2024 is my vibe. I am all about valuing my time, not saying yes to everything at my own expense, and cherishing the moments and being present in the things that I can say yes to. Number 8, stay delusional. And a lot of people have said this. If you ain't delusional, you ain't living. So I'm saying it again. I love it. I live my life by it. And I think I lost it a little bit last year. I got a little too practical for my own good. And I want to get back to that delusional way of living. Embracing delusion in a positive way really just means allowing yourself to dream big and chase seemingly impossible goals. In order to chase those seemingly impossible goals, sometimes you have to not overthink it. If you knew all the reasons that you would fail and you knew the odds of succeeding, you probably wouldn't do it. So stay delusional, dream big, and keep chasing them every single day. There's an example, even with this podcast, I used a connection that I have to get in touch with a guest, a really, really well known guest that I wanted to have on this podcast in 2024. And I was like, oh, I'm being so creative. I bet a lot of people haven't tapped this angle. I'm going to use my network and go through a first degree connection to get to that second degree connection. And I did it. It worked. We got the guest set up and locked for next year. And it wasn't until like last week, actually, I was having a conversation with this person that I asked to introduce me. And they were like, yeah, I don't really do that. A ton of people ask me, but I really don't do that. I just made an exception in this instance because I really care about what you guys are doing. And if I would have known that tons of people ask for an intro through this person, I probably wouldn't have done it because I would have felt awkward and I would have felt like I was just another one trying to get there. And I'm so glad I didn't know. I'm so glad I was delusional in that because I would not have shot my shot. Another way that we do this is Shoot Your Shot Friday. Like, stay delusional, send the email that feels like it'll never get responded to because, hey, it might. Probably it will, actually, because you're putting that positive energy into the universe and you're manifesting the outcome you want through delusion. I'm just kidding, but you get what I mean. Like, this is so important. And I think sometimes we overthink, we get too rational, we get too practical, and there is a time and a place for all of that. I am all of those things. But when it comes to your goals and allowing yourself to dream really big, a little bit of delusion is healthy. Number 9 is just start. Don't wait to be ready. Just start. So, who has masked procrastination in the form of researching or preparing? And all it does is just cause inaction. I definitely have. And I feel the need most times to be very, very prepared before I do anything. I have historically looked at that as like a badge of honor. If I'm prepared, I will get the outcome. If you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. That kind of vibe was ingrained in my brain. And it's caused some analysis paralysis before. And, you know, when you just begin something, you evolve through action as opposed to hoping to evolve through inaction, which is really what we're doing when we sit around and research and prepare and do all the things we think we need to do before we actually start something. And it's just not the vibe for 2024. Begin before you feel like you're ready because you'll evolve at a much faster rate than if you keep waiting and waiting and waiting to do something until you feel totally ready. You're never going to feel totally ready. I started posting on TikTok in the last couple of weeks because I knew I was bad at it. I knew I was going to pay the suck tax and I didn't care. I found myself reading how to understand the TikTok algorithms, how to go viral on TikTok, how to format a successful TikTok video. I was reading all this stuff. And by the way, they all say different. And so instead of sitting around and continuing to read and research, I just started to go for it. Haley gave me some feedback and told me I could do things differently, which I really appreciate. I just went for it. And that's what you got to do. So again, Shoot Your Shot Fridays. Just, you don't have to be prepared. The email doesn't have to be perfect. Just do it. Just send it. Just start. You will get better slowly. You will evolve faster than if you wait to be ready. And the final intention for 2024 is love and appreciate myself. This is not a revolutionary concept, but self-love is the foundation of personal growth. It's really hard to accomplish growth in yourself, growth in your relationships, friendships, family, when you aren't showing yourself love and you aren't appreciating yourself. This year, I learned to appreciate myself more than I ever have before. The things that I used to try to hide or I was embarrassed to show, I've really started to appreciate. And I barely scratched the surface of what I could do. That's why it's an intention for me for 2024. But appreciating my curious nature, my achievements, my journey, and all of its nuances and uniqueness is helping me be better for those around me. And I could do a lot more. One of the ways that I show myself love is through setting boundaries, speaking up, doing all the things that I just listed 1 through 9 in my intentions if I follow through on those things, that's a form of loving myself and appreciating myself. And I think it's going to help me nurture the relationships I have, and they'll flourish because of it. The relationships I have with everyone else, but most importantly, the relationship that I have with myself. There you have it. 1 through 10, my intentions for 2024. If you're going to get started in your reflection process, here are 3 tips that you can start today. And also go to Gateless Pod on Instagram, find in the story highlights the workbook, the intention setting workbook, and request access. And that's what you can do from here to get started on your reflections and your intentions. But 3 tips you can do today. Reflect before setting your intentions. You can start reflecting just by listening to this podcast, going on a walk, journaling a little bit. Reflect on your year. I went back to starting in January in my calendar of last year, and I looked at every month and reminded myself of everything that happened. What went well, what didn't go well, how did I feel during that time, wrote it all down. That was my reflection process. Tip number 2, be specific in your intentions. If you make really vague intentions like be happy or be positive, you're going to have vague results. You got to get specific in the intention setting process. And this will be easier if you reflect first, because you'll start to understand themes in how you feel in that exercise of going month over month. Tip number 3, align your intentions with your goals and your values. Your intention should be anchored in the person you want to become, the things you want to achieve. Your intentions are tools to help you achieve those things. There are tools to help you become that person. So think about setting your intentions that way. To summarize, I gave you my 1 through 10. Steal them if they're helpful to you. The ask here is just start reflecting and setting your own intentions for next year, because it's going to help you live a much more focused, calm, intentional life in 2024. You will be aligned with your authentic self. You'll be aligned with your goals. And I think at the end of the year, if you do this practice, at the end of next year, if you do this practice, you're going to look back and be amazed at everything that you accomplished and the personal growth that you realized. If you enjoyed this episode, we really appreciate you subscribing to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. Give us a review. We'd really appreciate that. And then share this episode with anybody in your life that you think could benefit from reflections and intentions going into the new year. Go to Instagram on the story highlights to get access to the intention setting workbook for 2024. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this episode was valuable to you, and we'll talk soon.